Well, hello, my name is Mark David Stallard and welcome to I'm Alive Animation. Today I'm rigging head turns so the character can look left and right more naturally. And because I don't want Mona to look like that, let's give her the ability to turn her head. I'm alive, and I hold on to you. Head turns can help your character feel 3D as well as add more emotion and dynamism to the character. However, I'm going to keep the head turn movements fairly subtle. This greatly reduces the complexity of the rig and it speeds up the workflow, so you'll get a great effect with minimal effort. So let's get rigging. So we're going to get the head moving side to side, so she's looking left and right. We'll control that with the smart bone dial. So let's get started. So at the roots of the head group, which is a bone layer, create a new bone, nothing's highlighted. Okay, and I'm just going to call it head turn. There we go. And before I do anything else, I want to just be sure I've got the layers visible that I want to work on initially. So at this point, I don't want to work on the hair and not the shading. I won't be looking at the eyebrows initially, and I'm probably going to lose the eyes as well, but because we're free to make these visible and invisible. I'm also going to get rid of the inside of the mouth. Okay, right, so I'm just going to, from that point, I will create my smart bone dial. So bone, make smart bone dial, and I like to change the duration to 120 because then that rounds it off nicely at the 5-second mark. Just a little bit more intuitive to see it on the timeline, so I'm going to guess where I am. The default 100 is somewhere like 4 frames off the 4-second mark. Gets a bit, it's just easier to manage visually if I round it up to 120. First thing I'm going to do is keyframes were automatically created for the bone, for the smart bone. I'm just going to change the interpolation to linear, sorry. And make sure the default is linear, and we will go. So the bone is pointing to the left, so I'm going to get the head to look to the left. Okay, we're going to start on the head layer, and we've got to wing it a little bit I'm not really sure, I don't have any reference for this character, but what I need to do is I need to get the point of the chin, and I'm just going to take the whole chin now, and I'm just going to move the chin to the left a little bit. I'm holding now shift. I want to keep these turns, the action on the points, I want them going linearly as much as possible. That will mean that there is less conflict between the up and down motion that we'll do in the next video and the side to side and any other actions that we do as well. So there'll be less room for conflict. So hopefully we won't see any of that. So that's what I'm doing. So shift and then drag them over linearly. Now I'll want to move this center point there. And I'm just going to soften off that a little bit more. Going to move the jaw over. And we will be tweaking these as we go. Much of what's happening on the side of their head, on the edges here, where I'm probably spending more time than I need to. Well, there we go. Is because they're going to be covered by the hair. So as her head moves, so the hair will move and they'll cover that up. So I don't really need to spend that much time. But it's a little bit easier to visualize it, the whole shape of the head, because we've got to figure out where the mouth is going, where the nose is going, and everything else. So I'm just scrubbing back and forth so I can get an idea of how that face should look. Again, I'm holding down shift and moving it sideways. Okay, I'm just going to, and like I said, we will tweak these as we go. Okay, I think we're probably good there. And I'm not going to do too much with the top of the head because it is completely covered. Right, I'm just going to scrub back forward there. Does that look good? I think that's pretty good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of the points, and I'm just going to move the head over a bit. When you turn your head, the joint where your neck meets your head is actually towards the back of your head, so that your chin, when you turn it, isn't going to stay right next to your neck. It actually moves away from that center point when you're looking at it this way. So as you can see, I moved that a little bit, and you can see they've got a little bit of a a move there as if the joint is at the back of the head rather than in the middle or the front. So that should be good. I'm going to just mute the nose layer for a sec there because it's just going to get in the way. Now I need to position the mouth. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to highlight all of the mouth. Oh, just so you know that this is this head is the head layer is actually the head and the mouth, and the lips are just a shape around the edge of the head, and that's actually the hole. So the mouth is actually a hole in the head, which I can demonstrate by showing you the inside the mouth layer. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to move the mouth over. Okay, that's probably kind of where it needs to be, and I'm looking at the center line on the lips, and we're going to see where it is in comparison to the chin. Actually, what I have seen there is that the chin is now too round. I'll be doing a lot of this because there'll be a lot of this checking out and it's working and it's not working. Right, I'm gonna continue something like that. How does that look? Okay, that's better. We can retain that kind of small chin. Good. So I think that mouth is pretty close. I think it's because the mouth needs to be, I think it's a tiny bit further back from the chin or forward of the chin, but maybe not quite that much. I think that's fine. Now we've got some choices now because we've got to now make, because that mouth is attached to the skin or the head, and it's kind of round. It's not flat, it's round. So now we have to give it that little round feeling. Now we've got a couple of options here. Now one of the things I like to try is I'll use the perspective points over there, and then we can add a little perspective on, again holding down shift. That'll help it go around the corner a bit. Okay, and I think that's probably about right. We can have a look. That's not too bad, is it? But I think what I'd like to do is, I tend to find that when I do the perspective, it stretches out a little bit on the sides there more than I tend to like. So I'm just going to grab all of those points for the mouth and just narrow it down a bit. And now we can see. How does that look? Okay, this is where it becomes an art. And I think I've overdone it there, haven't I? And I think we're good there. So that's the mouth done. I will no doubt come back and tweak that. Right, so now I've got the mouth, I've got the head, the outside of the head done. And I can imagine, you have to imagine that there's a line around going from the tip of the chin through the mouth where the base of the nose would be, and up and around here. So if I was drawing it, I'd draw a guideline. But I'm going to do all this by feel. Okay, I'm going to do the nose next, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to pull the nose over, just highlight the nose points, and highlighting the points not to the not the layer. That's kind of important for what I'm doing anyway. And I'm going to drag that across the proportion, so the base of the nose should move at the same speed with the top of the lip. So now what we need to do is make that nose look like it's moving in 3 dimensions. Now instead of doing the perspective, which I could do, I'm going to do the sheer points. That will give us like that, holding down shift, and that's let it move at an angle a bit. Okay, you can kind of see how that's working, and I want that point to be right at the mouth, so we can see that nose now moving, and that's actually looking not too bad. So we can see that. It's not far off at all, is it? So we're not doing a complete 90-degree turn. I don't think there's any point in that. I could go a little bit further if I wanted to. I don't think this character, for what I needed to do, she's fairly subtle reactions and just kind of looking at what's going on around her. So she doesn't need to do a 180-degree turn, looking left and then all the way to the right. Although I will be doing a profile view of this character, but maybe we'll do that in another video if there's enough call for it. Okay, so I am happy with that so far. And of course, usually at this point I might have more of a nose drawn in, and I would modify that as well, but I obviously can't. I'm going to make these nostrils a little bit smaller, so I'm just highlighting the nostril shape. Just going to position that there. And again, we have to scrub this to make sure that it's looking good. I'm happy with that. Okay, and I think we will go then to the eyes. Now the eyes are in a subgroup here. So we've got the eyes, and what I've done on this is we've got the eyelashes, which is a couple of simple shapes. We've got the eyes, which is effectively a big shape with a hole in it, and we've actually got two shapes joined together, but with the hole inside for the eye. The iris is actually a separate layer altogether, and then the eye whites are behind that too. And the reason I've done that is that we can hide the edges of the other shapes behind the eyes. There we go, and it just makes it easier to do it. So the eyelids kind of become the softer skin that's usually around one's eyes. Okay, so what we're going to do with this one then is I'm going to do something fairly similar. I am going to grab the eye. She looks a bit like a cyclops there, doesn't she? But I'm going to grab that eye, and I'm going to use the perspective tool. I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the mouth. And again, I'm just on the eye layer. These are separate eyes, separate eyes. They're separate layers. And I'm just going to. Then I've got so just add a little bit of perspective on. Just going to make the eye a bit smaller. And I'm going to slide that over there. Let's scrub that, see if it works. So that doesn't work. Got something wrong there, I think. Okay, so I just went back and just changed all of the points, the interpolation to linear. Even though it looked linear, it clearly wasn't working. So just right click, and I just click on smooth and then back to linear just to make them all work now. So if I do this again, you can see that's a bit smoother. Okay, I'm now going to work on the other eye. Again, it's on the same layer. And I'm just going to move this over and see if I can get that in the right place before I do any adjustments on it. Okay, I think I've gone too far. We can use for reference that the corner of the nose should be moving at the same speed as this corner of the eye, because they're about the same level on the head, give or take. I think that's working nicely. I think what's not working though is I have made this eye go too small, so I'm just going to make that a bit bigger. And again, keep scrubbing so we can see it. Okay, that looks like it's going up, and that's no good. Okay, I think that looks acceptable for the eye. Now the rest of the eyes are really easy. So the eye whites, just holding down shift there as well, moving it sideways, make it a bit smaller. And I'm just going to move these points up. Remembering that I have animated those, rigged those for the eyes close and open. So we're going to make sure we don't change it too much, but allow enough room in the shape there for the eye whites to not pop out. Otherwise, we're coming back. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, just drag that over. That one looks good as is. I'm not touching that one anymore. We've got the irises, which they're already highlighted. It's going to move them over. Right, this one eye, I'm just going to make that a bit smaller so it fits. I remember she's going to be looking straight ahead relative to her. That doesn't look quite right, but we'll adjust that as we go. Okay, how does that look? Oh, here we are. There's that linear. Again, right. And the eye whites. just to piss me off. Right, here we go. Okay, I want to get this eye in the right place. How does that look there? Good, just want to get out so I can see it. I think that's pretty good. And we've got the eyelashes, which are a little bit more intricate. But again, we should be able to just highlight, bring those over. And I should just be able to make everything smaller. And that should do it. I don't think we need to do too much more. Again, we got to change that to linear. There we go. So that's probably going to be fine. The blink action that we created in the last, well, in a previous video, probably won't like it. And that should just move nicely now. And those of you who are wondering, I'm using the mouse button to zoom in my view. It's not zooming the camera, it's just zooming in the view. Okay, now that should be it for the eyes. Okay, so we're now going to move forward onto the eyebrows. Okay, and we're going to be using very similar techniques that we used for the other layers. So for this one, I'm just going to highlight all of them, drag them over, and I want to get that near eye looking good. And so the eyebrow is actually going to stick out closer to us than the eyes, so there's a bit of a parallax happening with the eyebrows. I think that's fairly close, isn't it? Can we do a bit more? And again, I'm just looking at this eyebrow, the one that's nearest us. I think that's fine. It does look like it's floating a little bit, so I'm just going to stretch that out a bit. So the eyebrow shape, it's just a line. It's not actually a shape. It's a line. Let's just demonstrate that. So it's a line with a stroke, similar color as the hair. And I just made it, the line thickness just a little bit bigger and smaller, depending which end it's at, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to make this a bit smaller. Okay, I'm holding down Alt. I think I did too much there. Make it a little bit up a little bit more. I'm not going to worry about this popping over for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is I want to make sure that that looks fine. I think that looks good. I'm happy with that. And in order to give this just a little bit more shape, so it looks like it wraps around the head, I'm just going to bend that in a smidge. And so that looks good. Okay, I'm going to now do the inside of the mouth. Yeah, so we'll just move the inside of the mouth over. I'm not going to do too much. I only do what I need to. I'm going to use the point there. The bottom of the teeth is 3 points. You can probably just make that out. I'm going to put that, count that as the middle tooth. I could put a little dent in there, and make sure we're on frame 120, and turn them all to linear again. Okay, I'm happy with that. The only thing we have to adjust then is the back of the mouth, or the throat, or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to move those in, and I think that we are about done there, right? Again, I'm going to change all the interpolation to back to linear. I hope that gets fixed in an update, but here we are. We can live with it for now. So that head is pretty much done there. So what else I've got here is the shading. So on the shading layer, which is actually I've got a mask layer here. So the head group is actually layered. Everything I think is not being masked except for the shading layer, and we're using the head shape only as the mask for the shading layer. That way then when we do the shading we don't have to worry too much about the outside, as long as we only have to worry about this inside layer. So now we're going to move that all the way over to frame 120, and we are going to adjust the layers. So I'm just going to highlight all of it. I'm going to put the center, the forehead piece, where in the middle of the forehead, make that linear again, and then everything should move naturally. Okay, I think that's fine. Right now I'm just highlighting just the shape for the dark shading around the side of the head. There you go, I think that's fine. And then I'm just going to grab the points around the other side of the head, drag those over. You can make this needn't be a difficult task, and needn't take you a long time, because of the more complicated your character, the more complicated it's rigged, more shapes you've got in there, the more layers, and it will take you longer and longer, obviously depending on the complexity, but this is relatively straightforward. So now I'm going to grab the bridge of the nose here. This is kind of going to be important. Usually the shading layer isn't that important for me, but this time it is, because it actually contains a big part of the structure of a nose. So I just grabbed that layer, dragged over, and then I'm going to use the shear points tool, holding down the shift as well, and this is where I need to decide what is the shape of a nose. Is it triangular and pointy outy? I'm just going to jump off that layer, so when I scrub it we can actually see that better. Oh. Okay, what is wrong with that is shading, is the top of the nose. Actually, I'm going to go back there. The top of the nose sits too far back, and because this is not really attached to the skull, it'll be attached to the skull up there a bit more. This will kind of stick out a little bit, and that feels better there. Let's back up and have a look. Okay, I like that. That far eye looks a little bit odd, but I can tweak that later if it doesn't work. And that's a matter of changing the shape, I think. You know what, let's do it now. Okay, just got the layer select tool there, jumped into the eye layer, make sure I'm on frame 120, and I think what's bothering me is that point there is too pronounced, and I'm just going to move that back a little bit as well. And as we're tweaking the eye white as well, so let's have a look. How does that look? I select another layer so I don't get all the control guides and everything on there. I think that's a bit better, isn't it? Good. Now I'm going to then start working with the hair. So I'm going to start with the top of the head, which I've erroneously labeled bangs because she doesn't have any. Make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm going to move all of them. Now she's got a bit of a widow's peak the way I've drawn it there, so I'm just going to move those over, holding shift, and put that where the shading has it. So this is going to be a bit funny, but is that right? It's not far off, is it? Okay, I'm going to move this over here. Put those in the right layer. Okay, and I'm going to move that over a bit. And paying attention to the top of the head, because even though we're not going to see that part of the head, the back of the head is actually going to be moving in the opposite direction because it's further away. Okay, so I think that's all right. A little bit more. Make sure everything's on the right frame there. Okay, I think that's about right. And then I'm going to grab, just going to grab those other points, pull them in, and I'm going to just adjust that one over. Okay, how does that look? I think that's probably okay. And then we've got the last layer, which is the hair sides. So I'm going to bring those up. The thing with this is we've got those bones there, so we can use those bones to our advantage. Right, so we need to move some points first. If I do a test here, you can see if I move the bone, some of the points are going to move with it, and some of the points are going to be static. So just got to remember which ones are which. Just going to hit undo there. And so it's a handful, whoops, it's a handful there, one by the mouth, and pretty much everything up the side, isn't it? Yep. So I'm going to move those first. And I don't want anything special on those bones. All right, let's go to the hair sides and we'll just move those over. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave that point. Okay, it's going to come down the front, right up to her mouth. We'll move those over. And I'll worry about the top of the head in a minute. But we'll move that over. Is that happening the way I want it to? Nope. And nope. Let's move that over. How does that look? Okay. There you go. That's not looking too bad. That looks like I was playing around with those bones. I'm going to undo those bones. So if you highlight the one bone, or the one point, or whatever it is, it will highlight down here, and I can just remove just the animation, or the keyframe for that bone. And I'll do the same for that one as well. And then when we scrub, yep, so the bones don't move then. Okay, back to the hair sides. That one looks great. Then I'm going to do the top layer here. So I'm going to take those 2 points and just pull them back. That should be all I need to do. That looks good. Then we'll go back to the bone layer and I'll move those bones for the hair. Again, holding shift, so I just want to move it over a bit. We've got a little distortion there, we'll figure that out in a sec. Okay. Let me... Good. Okay, if we ignore the left hand side as we're looking at it, that looks like it's moving just fine, I think. Okay, I'm going to jump in here into the hair sides, and I'm going to get rid of that kink because it's going to annoy me. How's that? Looks good. And then we'll do the same with the other side. Okay, and it stops at the mouth. Okay, that looks not too bad. What I am going to do is flatten some of these. But I don't want to get rid of too many, but I just want to get rid of that. Just so that it doesn't obscure the face and make her look like she's being covered by a pillow. Whoops. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, I'm going to move that one. and that one there, I think. So I think we've now got to figure out what to do with these bones on the other side. So we'll put the transform bone tool, and I'm going to move this over a bit. And I think that's probably okay. And I'm moving this one closer to the head. So then we've got something that looks like this. And I'm moving this one too. So I think that's decent. And I think that we're done with that side. So that's a decent first level. Let me get out of here. I'm going to go back to mainline. Then I'm going to go to frame 24. Really just any frame other than 0. I'm going to do the head turn. Let's do a quick preview, see how that looks. Pop, there we go. That looks fairly decent, doesn't it? Nothing's jumping out too much. Okay, I also want to test now that the behind the head, or the back of the hair, or however you want to say it. So this is the hair inside. I want to make sure that is covering everything up, and it looks like it is. It looks like we're good. I don't need to animate that. The neck needs to move, but we're going to do a separate bone for that one, so that you can see how that one will look. So actually turns left and right. You can see how that works, but we'll do that all in one go. Okay, just going to go back to the head. Right, back to the bone layer for the head. Get rid of those bones, don't need those anymore. So we're done halfway. Now this is the fun part. Or is it? Yes, it is. This is the easy bit. We're now going to do her looking the other way. Now here's the trick. Is we get the head where we want it, and I think that's probably close to where we want it. I'm going to move the camera, because if we move the head layer, it's going to be out of sync with the rest of the body. And I want to get that head approximately, or as near as I can, center of the screen. Right on that nose. I think we're pretty close there. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to move over to looking that way. I think we're good. And now I'm just going to do a preview. Now this is the important part. This is going to make the next segment and making it look the opposite direction almost a non-event. It'll be so easy. So we're going to click Save As. I like saving as a JPEG. Sorry, as a PNG. I'm just going to drop it into the default folder for that character. Go back to frame 0. Okay, you can go File, Import if you like. I've got the folder open, so I'm just going to drag it in. There we go. Now the fun part is, let's get this exactly lined up in the middle here. Fill up the entire frame, which is how we had it, like so. It's a little bit more difficulter than you would think. Okay, then I'm going to flip this horizontally, and then I'm going to move it over a bit, and that should be where her head needs to end up. And then we're going to use that as our guide to move everything. Okay, so then we're just going to go back to the head layer. We want the head turn. We'll go to the actions. I want head turn 2. Okay, so head turn 2 will take me the other direction. You can see the bone is moving already. I'm going to go to frame 120. And then I'm going to zoom in. What we're going to do is we're going to hide every layer of the head, and including the back of the hair. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pretty much go down. We'll start at the head, And I'm just going to make sure I'm on there, and I'm just going to move everything over. I don't need to do all the fancy stuff. I just need to line this up with this. We're going to speed this up, and I don't need to talk the way through this. We've seen this already. All I'm going to do is just make sure all of these shapes match what's under there. So I'll get on with this.
Never thought I would see the day when I belong to you. Oh, I'm alive.
Okay, so the basic head turn is now done. We'll have a quick look there. We'll see how she looks. And we'll just move the head turn. Looks pretty good. The only thing I think I need to fix is a little bit of hair. So let's go back down then to head turn 2. Frame 120. And I just need to do what I forgot to do earlier, just position that one. There we go. I think that is it. Again, like I usually say, it's we're going to have to tweak this as we go. Once we start animating, some things will be, I'll spot some stuff that I didn't spot when I was rigging it. And there we go. So there's one more thing that we need to do though, and it's a relatively quick and easy thing, is that we need to get the neck to turn as well. So if I put the neck on there, you'll notice that the neck looks a little static. Okay, so to fix the neck issue there is I just click on the main layer. It's got to be the group in which the neck is and not a subgroup, so that's why I didn't create it there. So on that layer I'm going to create a neck turn bone, and I'm going to put this one probably closer to the neck. Then I'm going to go bone, make smart bone dial. I didn't name it yet, so I'll call it neck. Make sure we're on frame 120. This one defaulted to 120 because I already changed it earlier in the session. So okay, so on the neck layer we're going to select all of the points, and I'm going to select all of them with the exception of a handful on the bottom there. These ones I want to stay still. They're going to be anchored to the neck. Now I'm just going to use the shear points tool, hold down shift. There we go. It goes the right way. And I kind of move that over, just make sure that, I think that looks fine. We will adjust that as we go. And then I'm going to grab the points in the, mostly in the middle there. I'm just going to drag those with the shear points tool again. Where are we? There we are. Just a little bit, and then we'll move it over. So you can see that neck kind of moves. I don't like the way that's doing that, so I'm going to move those points over here. Okay, I think that is good enough. It's just a subtle move, it doesn't have to be particularly accurate in any way. Okay, I'm going to click on the neck 2 and take the neck the other way, so we'll do exactly the same thing again. Actually, I missed those ones. Shear points, move that over. Okay, back to main line, and okay, I'm just going to highlight everything else. And there we have it. One last thing we need to do, so we are actually done. Let's just see how well the expressions and the eyes and everything else that we rigged earlier work. So I'm going to go one way, look one way, and then just try them out. How do the eyebrows look? Oh, the eyebrows look pretty good. Eyes open and close. They look good. Eyes side should look good. There's no reason why those won't in the up and down. That was very simple. The speak looks fine. Oh, a little bit breaks up a little bit there. Right, so we just have to be aware of that when we're animating. We may need to move that mouth down using point animation, but that's fine. She's not going to be doing. She's not going to be speaking very much, this character. And then we look at the head looking the other way. Looks good. Eyes open and close. Oh, we have an issue there. We can see that eye. The eye white is not covering that. Does that go back to the beginning? Let's go on to frame 1. Nope, there's a problem then with the tone. I might be able to fix that. Okay, and yep, so it breaks apart there. And this is something I would, because I didn't spend as much time on looking the opposite direction, in this case right, some of the stuff is breaking apart because I wasn't as particular where the points went. But if it becomes an issue, she's got to make that expression, ooh, and smile, then we can flip the entire rig. We can take the entire rig because her head is symmetrical. We can just flip it there, horizontal, and then she will work. We'll have to do some shifting around, but you get the idea. Okay, I've just rigged some basic movements here, animating some keyframes. Let's do a quick render test, see how she looks. And there it is, a render test. I think that's looking good. And that's how to do a basic head turn. So what did you think of today's tutorial? Did you learn something? Would you like to see more videos like this? Yes? No? Maybe? So if you're interested in learning animation or improving your animation skills, you can do a lot worse then. Subscribe, please. And don't forget, if you can imagine it, you can bring it to life.
Oh, I'm alive.